Hello and welcome to Phloshop. Um, it's been a while since we've done a YouTube video because really excited about the image and everything that we did. And so I'm not gonna do a full retouching here for you to see. I'm just gonna break down all the folders that I have and explain in detail everything that we did. In this way, I believe it's going to give you an idea of what we did to solve the problems that we face in the image and probably the solutions that we found best to solve them. So I'm going to go straight into the image. Let me make it full screen right now. Okay. And this, before we start, this is the before. This is the raw image as it came out of the camera. And after all the retouching, all the folders that you see on the right here, um, this is how it looks. So I'm going to turn off all the visible layers and we're going to start analyzing the image. So I'm going to create a new layer on top of everything else to mark out the problem areas that we face and how we solve them. And you notice we don't solve all the problems on one layer. You create different layers and even group them, and so you stay organized, and then you can always go back and forth um, to make further changes. That is, if you're able to work undistractedly. So zooming in to the image for close a close view, I'm gonna choose a random color that is gonna be visible. She has some purple in the dress, so let's say, I think green is fine, and bright green should work. Alright, because I mean, this is just something to demonstrate what we're looking at. So, zooming into the image, this is, first of all, it's like commission work, and so it's not every little detail that we're going to be paying attention to, especially because it's also for a review. It's just supposed to send a message across. So if you're doing it on your own time, then you can go deep down and pay attention to the little details, because it's those little details that eventually make your image better. So zooming in, first of all, you notice that there are some slight tonal variations here. Um, and I like how the makeup was really, really light. And one thing I also like to speak about again is the eyebrows. If you notice, you can see the hair strands, um, and that is what makes makeup really. I mean, that is what makeup is supposed to do. I'm not a makeup artist, but I feel makeup it's not Halloween and you're not doing face painting. If you're face painting, then by all means do whatever it is that you want. But makeup is essentially um, supposed to increase the aesthetics that someone already has. It's supposed to enhance. Makeup only enhances. And I believe if you're able to keep it as natural as possible, that is what is going to help sell whatever it is that you are selling. And by filling in the individual strands itself, by darkening it down a little bit, it works well and looks natural rather than painting um, a flat, thick, dark color on the eyebrow and shaping out, because there's nobody in the world that has eyebrows like that. And so, what the makeup artist did, which isn't also too bad or too good, is she painted. So this is what I'm talking about. The painting was done in here, and I understand because over here usually the strands are lighter, and filling in the individual strands might have been a lot of work, and so she basically just flat painted it out. But over here, where the strands are dominant, all she did was fill it up a little bit more to make it um, a little more prominent. All right, so we're gonna fix this in the line down the eye, tone this down a little bit as well, and in the shadows you can tell they look a little bit desaturated. We're gonna work on that by bringing it up a little bit as well. We have a little bit of redness in the skin right here, right there, and it looks patchy. Like there's a patch here, there's a patch there, um, in here too, it looks desaturated. The arm, uh, the arm isn't too straight, so we're gonna look at pushing this in a little bit and pushing this out just to even it out a little bit as well, and probably just drop the dress a little downwards as well. And interestingly, this is where we had a lot of fun. We painted out the hair strands here just a little bit. We removed the strands totally from the arm, and we removed this as well. And the way we did it was we took two shots of this. It wasn't the exact same pose, but it kind of matched, and that is what makes the work a little bit easier. Sometimes you can take safety shots that you can help use to correct certain problems that you'd face, and we'll show you in the layers when we're going through them. And so we just had to copy that hand, that arm, and place it here, and then we did some masking out and blending in just to make sure that we got rid of all the hairs and it looked a little bit better. So overall, that's what we did, and I'm gonna go straight into how we tackled them. So first of all, I did a liquify, and what that liquify did was, and by the way, if you want to access your liquify tool, you just go to filter and come down to liquify. When you click on it, it's going to open this dialog box, and you can use the tools here to adjust and shape the model or the subject any way that you want. So in this case, what the Liquify tool I was used here to do was just to straighten the arm a little bit, um, push down the dress as well because I didn't like the way it was looking too full in here. Then I used it to shape around the dress here as well because the way it dipped just wasn't doing it for me. I brought the shoulders down a little bit just to accentuate the curve, and to also help it seem as if she has a long neck. She does have, but straightening it also helped a little bit. And I also added a little bit of shaping into the dress over here, and the arm as well. All right, and then we fixed the hand. So I'm gonna expand the folder in here, and you see everything that we did. So I'm gonna make the hand visible right now, and I'm gonna hide all the layers in there. So the very first thing that we did was, if I get rid of if I show you the mask right now, this is how the masking on the arm is a little bit rough, but it got the job done, hey. And if I hide the mask right now, you'd notice it's a different arm on its own. When I move this here, you can see it's a different arm which doesn't have any hair on it, and that is what we used. So we replaced the existing arm which had hair on it, and we did the masking in this way to cover parts where the hair was and all of that. And it wasn't just one. We made several copies of that arm and used certain parts of it to fill in. For example, this area here, when we did the very first masking, notice we weren't able to cover this entire area fully. And so there was another layer created. I think that's the one on top of it, but this was a further enhancement to the arm. The it it pumped out too much over here, and so this layer was just to bring it down a little bit. And even the we didn't like the way the hair strands and the vein was too visible in here, and so this layer solves that problem for us. And the next one we used to fill this area in, and that's this layer right here. So we worked on the arm as well, and we did the masking here as well. So you can see over here it's an arm on its own, and it came with its own hair from a different image, and we just placed it over, and then we did the masking to get rid of it. And this is how the mask looks like. So this is what we use to solve that problem. All right, moving on. On the next layer, we worked on the shadow areas, which is in here. We did a selection around here and did some painting, just normal painting to get rid of majority of the hair strands that were visible. And we painted several times just to make sure we got it the way that we wanted to. So that does it for the hand folder. Sorry. So a before and after of the hand shows you what all those layers and layer masks in that folder does. And it gave us a better looking arm with no hair strands in it. All right, then the next thing we did was frequency separation. And in the frequency separation, there's a lot of layers in there because I didn't limit it to just the um, the textures and the tones. I did selective color toning in between the frequency separation also, and so that I know that when I'm adjusting just the tones and no textures as well. I haven't done this before, but I felt it was necessary while I was doing this to work on it this way. I mean, there's so many ways that you can solve these issues, but for me, this is how I thought worked well. So zooming in a little bit and turning off all the layers in there. I'll show you, some of them need to work together, but I'm gonna show you what each of them did. So on the low frequency, I did nothing on this one. I just created a copy of it, and then I did some skin correction on that layer. Then in between the textures and the color tone, I created this blank layer where I used a brush tool to paint and smoothing out all the toning in the image as well. And so you can see um, it was used in painting and smoothing out the tonal transitions in the image. And I used selective color to, let me just find out where. Alright, there's some redness in the skin just about here. And you can see over here is a little reddish. And this selective color toning just balances out. I use the same hue and saturation to fix the remaining red issues. You can see from here that there was some kind of redness uh, in there, and that is what the hue and saturation also did. And this is how it looks like, my hue and saturation. Yeah, so in the reds, I just shifted it to the right by +6, and I didn't adjust anything else. I think the yellows, everything else stayed the same. It was only the red tones I moved a little bit. And in the last selective color adjustment, what I did was I went into my neutrals. I gave the cyan a -2, +2 into the yellows, in the blacks +1, in the whites I did nothing, and in the blacks I brought the yellow down, um, and that just increases the blues in the image a little bit. And in the magenta I added just a little bit more of it. So this is what these layers did, color toning the image just a little bit and making my texture layer visible. It brings back all the textures that are in the image, and you can get to see I used the copy of it to fix the hair strands and just problems on the texture layer. I did a final color balance on top of everything else, and that just adjusted the image the way I wanted. The shadows, I I added more red into the shadows, and I added more yellows into the shadows as well. And in the highlights, I did nothing, and in the midtones, I did nothing. So it was just in the shadows I played with just a little bit more. And that sums it for the frequency separation, and this is how the image looked after everything that I did. Then inside the dodge and burn, I'm going to make it visible right now and hide everything. So inside the dodge and burn, the first thing I put in there was a brightness and contrast adjustment, and I increased the brightness by 5 and increased the contrast by 7 just to make the image a little bit more punchy. Then inside the dodge and burn, what I did was make it visible. I just painted in white using the curves, which darkens down the image, and using a black layer mask to hide the adjustment which has been made, and then painting on white to reveal it. I just used that to darken down the hair and certain darker areas which already were existent in the image. And in the same way, the highlights too, I used it to clean off some of the transitions that we're not looking to cool. For example, here it's patchy and dark, and painting on that dodge just helped me to increase the highlights just a little bit, and as well help hide some of the dark patches which were present in the image. I created a second dodge and burn, and what that also did was in the dress area, you can I use that to let me show you how the curves looks like. I just added some contrast in there and then just painted it into the dress, and so it made it look punchy. The colors became richer and a little bit more contrasty. I also added another brightness, an overall brightness and contrast adjustment, and I gave a brightness of 10 and a contrast of about 3, just so I can add some punch. And finally, in the highlights, if I get rid of this layer style and show you, this is all that I did. I painted white and set it back to normal. So I painted white on the layer so I can isolate the very brightest parts in the image and just highlight them some more. So after painting with white using the brush tool, I set it to soft light, and I use a blending option to separate it from the underlying layer. And so by moving the dark slider inwards, you begin to see where the highlights are going to be affecting. And by moving it in, I don't want it to affect a broad part of the image like this. There's too much. The highlights aren't this much, and so by dragging it to the right a bit more, it then begins to target the very bright highlights in the image. And at this point, I think it's okay. And then I split it and drag it all the way to the right, and then hit OK. But I'm going to cancel it so I retain the previous adjustment that I made. And all that does is just add some punch by zooming in a bit more to the face before. See, it's the whites are there all right, but they lack the punch that this just gives to it. And I feel it just adds to the image for me. So that's all for dodge and burn. The image looks flat before dodge and burn, and after dodging and burning, it's contrasty. It it just it just looks good in my eyes. Then I did another color balance, and what I did here was in the shadows I still added a little bit more blues. Did we do anything in the midtones? No, nothing in the highlights. We just added a little bit more of yellow into the highlights. I think in the shadows okay, so +3 into the shadows, and the same +3 and -3 to add more yellows into the highlights. And I sharpened the image overall. And so that's what the sharpening here does. And I did a final liquify of this part of the image, the arm here. Before liquify, this is how it looked. Sorry. This is how it looked before liquify, and after liquify, I just straightened a little bit more just to help with the shoulder area. So that's it. That's everything that we did on this particular image to get it to look the way it's looking now. And so once again, this is the before and this is the after. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and show you. So this is the before, all the adjustments that we made, and this is the after. So thank you very much for watching this. If you liked it, if there are any comments you want to pass on this, just let me know. If you have any suggestions, any kind of videos that you also want us to make for you, you can suggest them in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of this retouching process. If you have any suggestions, any contributions, if there's any way that you face a problem like this and you solved it probably differently, do well to let us know as well. And yeah, let's just keep on sharing knowledge and getting better at what we do. So thank you very much once again, and subscribe if you haven't. If it's the first time watching, subscribe, and we're gonna get more videos coming your way. It's actually free to subscribe, so yeah, just the red button down there, subscribe written in white. Yeah. All right, so thank you and see you pretty soon. Bye bye.